Hey y'all, let's sew this Danica tie back crop. I am lining the lower ties in this video. The first step is going to be to put your two lower back tie pieces right sides together, and we're going to sew them along the bottom and along that upper top curve, and you're going to leave the upper top and side seam open, and we will attach those later to the upper back piece and side seam. I like to sew them together first along the bottom edge and then go back and sew them together along that top curved edge of the tie. And you are using a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. Once you have them sewn together, then you're going to repeat that step with the other two lower tie pieces. So you have a right and left tie piece, and you're going to turn them right side out and give them a nice press. If you want to, you can go ahead and top stitch around the edges. Next, you're going to attach these lower ties to the upper back. So you should have two upper back pieces, a main and a lining. You want your main piece to be right sides up, and you are going to put each tie piece right side together, aligning those edges. And if you want, you can baste these together quickly just at the edge so it doesn't move. And then you're going to take your lining upper back and place it on top so the tie pieces are sandwiched together, and we're going to sew these together. Along the diagonal edges, you're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then around that center curve, you will use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And once you have these sewn together, you're going to press it right side out, and it will look like this. And I am just going to baste it together along the top upper back edges so it doesn't move around while we're constructing the rest of the garment. Next, you are going to take your front piece and put it right sides together to the back piece, and we are going to sew these together at the shoulder seam with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then if you are adding your sleeve, you can prep your sleeve by creating a memory press along the bottom. Just press 1/2 inch toward the wrong side, and then you're going to attach your sleeve by matching that center notch with the shoulder seam, and then matching the front notch and back notches on the sleeve and just easing the rest in. You will sew this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're working on our side seam, and because we lined the bottom, the back is already finished. So I like to prep my front bodice by pressing and creating a memory press. The bottom edge, just press it 1/2 inch toward the wrong side, and then you're going to align the front and back pieces so all the seams are aligning and the ends of the sleeve edge are aligning. And at the bottom front, you should have this 1/2 inch extra that is longer than the back, and you are going to fold that 1/2 inch extra over the back bodice, and then you will sew each side seam from the edge of the sleeve all the way down the hem to that folded edge. And you do want to leave that front piece folded, so when we sew the side seam and we flip it right side out, the bottom edge of the where the front and the back meet is finished nicely. Then you will repeat with the other side seam and go ahead and sew it up with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Next, we are working on finishing the neckband. So I have my piece right sides together, folded in half, and I am sewing it together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then you will fold it in half again to enclose that seam, and I'm going to go ahead and 1/4 the neckband and also 1/4 my neckline, and I'm going to put the neckband right sides together to my neckline, aligning the raw edges and all the 1/4 points. and the neckband should stretch to fit the neckline, and you're going to sew them together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then go ahead and give it a nice press after you're done. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and top stitch around the neckline. The final step is going to be hemming. So I have already created those memory presses along my front bodice and sleeves. So now I'm just going back with a stretch stitch and I'm edge stitching along the hem to hold it in place. Again, this is a 1/2 inch hem allowance on both the bottom of the crop or top and on the bottom of the sleeves. I like to use a longer triple stitch to hem. You can also use a zigzag lightning or your cover stitch machine. And then your Danica is complete. So this tie back, if you look in the tutorial, Michelle shows you a few ways to tie it, but you can wrap it around the back, you can twist it, you can just leave it tied in the back. It's so cute, and if you make one, we would love to see. Post it in our Facebook group or on Instagram at Made for Mermaids, hashtag Made for Mermaids Patterns, hashtag Danica Pattern.